Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today we're gonna paint this holographic jerkbait. I'm gonna show you a really cool technique how you can do that, and we're starting right now. Alright guys, let's get started. First of all, I'm gonna do the top and bottom. I'm gonna do white because I want the belly to be white, and the top I want it to be lighter. So if you're casting out your jerk and you're playing it, you can still follow it because of the back being lighter than the rest. And if it's quite clear water, then you can see it going side to side, or when you're just reeling in it, you can see it swimming from quite a far distance. So I got some Vallejo dead white in my chamber now. Made it a little bit more light. It doesn't have to be perfectly bright white if you don't want to. Try not to touch the lure with my fingers so there's no grease on there. Like so. You can also wear gloves if you want to. Now when you're spraying white, you always get a lot of overspray on your foil, and I want to have the full potential of the foil. So that's why I take a little piece of cloth and I just wet it a little bit so it's quite moist, and I can, as you can see, that is a huge difference. And I just clean off my lure again. Just some water, doesn't need any airbrush cleaner or anything. So now I switch to my other airbrush with a bigger nozzle. This is a 0.8 nozzle. You can also do this with a 0.5 or anything in between or bigger. And we're gonna spray some hot rod sparkle white, because I think plain white is just plain boring. So let's tune it up with a little bit of sparkle in there. Of course, I also add a little bit of 40-30 and some 40-11 thinner. As you can see, it is already quite visible right now, but as this dries, you don't see any sparkle anymore. But it will come back once you clear coat it, and then it would be even more visible. Then you truly see the effect of hot rod sparkle, which is a great color or glitter to play around with. So now I got hot rod sparkle red, so same mixture, some 40-30, some 40-11, and then we put a few coats of hot rod sparkle red on there. Now again, clean all the overspray off. This time I am using a piece of dry cloth and my nail to just scratch this away, because hot rod sparkle, the paint adheres much better than the opaque white. So even with water, it's really hard to get off. So I just scratch it away. Works perfectly fine. And it will also give a little bit of irregularity. Give a little bit of texture in there as well. But most of it will become transparent anyway after clear coating this, so you won't notice much of it. If you're painting holographic lures and you want the full transparency to come through, then you will always have to make sure you've got no overspray on your holographic foil or on your regular foil, or whatever you are using. Full potential means no paint or anything else on there. Right, next up is some Candy 2O yellow. Just a drop or 4, some 40-30 and some 40-11. Alright, and then we put on our first coat of candy. Alright, Alright, now comes the special part. I take candy to blood red, dropper 5-6, 40-30 as usual. Now 40-11, but I'm gonna take a little bit more than usual, about 4 or 5 drops. Mix that well. Now there are two reasons why we started off with yellow candy first. First of all, I want to have this bait in a kind of an orange color, and it's much easier to start with yellow and then spray over your candy red afterwards, because then you can make certain points darker than others, so you can get a little bit more of depth in there. But also I want between every scale I want it to stay yellow. And now I'm gonna show you how you can achieve this effect. Now I got a piece of cardboard here with just some kitchen foil on there. It's regular kitchen foil. And the reason for that is I'm gonna spray my paint on there. I'm gonna use this as a palette. And the foil is not gonna take up any paint, so the paint will be very wet on there. I'm gonna spray very heavy as well. And then I will take a little piece of saran wrap or kitchen foil again. I just fold it up like a little ball, and then, you know, just play with it a little bit until you get a little bit of texture in there, and kind of a stamp, little round stamp. And then I'm gonna dip some paint on there, and then I'm gonna dip it on the bait. Now the thing is that this will only cover the very outer surface, so everything between all the scales, everything that is carved out and is underneath, you will not get any paint on there. And that's how you get two different tones in a very easy way, and it's really cool. Right, so first I spray some paint on this. Very heavy coat. I just dip this, and then we start and as you can see, everything in between the scales hasn't been painted, and it also adds a little bit of texture because it's very irregular, which is really cool. And the thing about candy paints is the more layers you apply, the darker it gets. So you can even play around and just add a little bit here and there it gets darker, so you get even a little bit more of a texture in there as well. Gonna do the head as well. Like so. Super cool. Of course we're gonna, so to get this underlying texture, there is no stencil needed, just some kitchen foil and some good paint. I'm gonna make this a little darker by just using a little bit more paint there. Now you can use this technique with any kind of paint on any kind of lure. As long as there is something carved out in there, you can use this technique. You can also paint the whole lure black and then dip on the white and then spray it with a candy, so you only paint the white again with a different color. You can also do this with pearlescent on black, so you get this like special effect, and then paint candies over it. That's really cool. But you can also do it with opaques or with the transparent paints and just play around with that. There are a lot of different kind of effects to achieve with this technique. It's really cool. And even if you do mess up a little bit, I don't really care about it, because it's part of the lure. You know, it's part of the pattern in this lure at least. Well, at this point you can also call it done and call it a holographic goldfish, which also really suits this color. That would definitely be cool. But I want to make a burbot out of this, so I made some stencils. I made this fine line stencil to put over the body, and I made this one. Took me quite some time, but it's totally worth it. This finer stencil to do on the head only, and a little bit on the back of the head as well, because some burbots have this like bigger lines on the body and those finer, deeper pattern on the head. So that's why I made both these stencils, the bigger lines on the body and the finer lines on the head. And we're gonna do this with candy black, which is this one. And the reason for that is because I once used wicked black, I think this is, or even opaque black, and I sprayed that first as a base and then went over it with yellow, and then I painted the fin with candy black. And as you can see, the candy black is much deeper, much richer than how the opaque or the wicked black actually turned out. On the opaque side, there is no foil or anything. The black is more present, I would say, but here it does fade a little bit and you see all the pigments, while the candy black has no pigments, it's a dye, so therefore it's impossible to see any pigment, so it will never be diluted as the lines are here. So I do really like how that turned out actually, so I'm sure if I would do the whole pattern with candy black, it will be more consistent. Right, let's get our stencil on, like so. Now, the most important thing is when you're spraying with a stencil and you want nice, fine, consistent lines, your stencil has to touch your lure. As you can see, it's not touching here and here either. So if I spray there, it will be a faded line and not a consistent, nice, tight line on there. So that's why I use a little bit of tape, so it's like an extra hand or a finger that's holding my stencil there. So I got my hand now again, so I can press down here and do that little bit first, so I make sure that is a nice consistent line over there, like so. And then we got that one. Make sure we align everything. Like so, nice subtle lines. Very clean. I'm also spraying at a quite high air pressure. That is because it will press my stencil against my lure, which makes it a lot easier for me. Like so. Starting to get a really cool pattern here now. Making sure the masking tape doesn't stick too much, so I would take any paint off. That's why I put it on my pants once or twice or 3 times, so there's a little bit of hair and dirt on there, and it sticks to the tape. It's not gonna stick to the lure, but it makes the tape stick less, so you won't pull off any paint. So now it's time for the head. Like so. And that looks awesome. So there we go, guys. Our lure is finished. A holographic burbot. Really cool pattern. Beautiful lines. This is gonna look incredible with epoxy on, trust me. So for the eyes, you can put in some really cool special eyes. I'm gonna use the ones that come with the lure, because I find that these eyes actually quite fit well to the pattern, so I just use a little bit of super glue because we're gonna put a few coats of epoxy on them anyway, so we don't need to use too much. Now you could take some candy yellow or something and spray the fin again to make it a little bit more stick out from the rest, but I avoided it by not spraying over it with my stencil so that the fin would stick out a little bit but not too much, as you can see. So I think it's gonna be just fine like this. I'm gonna let this dry for 24 hours and then I'm gonna put a few clear coats on it. I'm gonna use epoxy. VHC Pike Edition I always use. It's a very easy and very good epoxy. I'm gonna put four small coats on there and then I'll show you guys the result. Alright guys, our burbot is finished. It really looks amazing with the candy on the holographic foil. The result is fantastic. I hope you can see the hot rod sparkle underneath the candy paint here. It is absolutely gorgeous. It really looks amazing. Now there's a lot more you can do with this technique. You can also do more natural patterns like this one. Here I did a black and then pearlescent gold, or wicked gold in this case, and just did the same technique on those scales, so you get this kind of, so you can still see the scale pattern shining through, which makes it really beautiful. And then I mixed up some brown candy and I also did the back a little bit, so there's a lot of depth in this lure. It turned out really great, and again, hot rod sparkle on the belly. It just adds so much more to the lure. But you can do if you do it a little differently, you can get a totally different texture in there as well. Like in this lure. This looks amazing as well. It's really beautiful, it's really cool. Same technique, just a little different, and I will make a video once when I got the time. I will make a video how you can achieve this effect as well. It is very similar to what we just did, but yeah, the result is just stunning. I will leave a link in the description below for all the materials that I used for this lure. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something, and see you next time. Bye bye.